Hello, everybody. It's Rochelle from Art Leadership Coaching and Consulting, and we are back with another season of the Artful Leaders interview series. And I'm super excited today to have Misha Safran on, and we met in a women's business program. And so it's been really cool to see each other's journey and support each other along the way. But the series is really about kind of mining the stories and the wisdom of folks who are working at this really unique intersection of the arts, education, healing, social change, and really picking their brains about like where we are right now, how do we move forward. And so I'm excited to talk to Misha because we're going to take on a topic that we have not taken on a whole lot in this series, and that is parenting. So I'm really looking forward to our conversation about that piece of the picture, because we've talked a lot about educators and artists and students and systems, and now we get to talk about parents who are such an important part of the education of our students. So welcome, Misha.
Such an important part. Thank you. So important, you parents out there, and you have just survived. I think you survived, because if you're watching this, you survived the most difficult, in my book, the most difficult, the most challenging, the most bizarre year in family history.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Crazy. I mean, I am so grateful that my youngest is 21 for this year. But I know that so many parents and kids just experienced quite a roller coaster. And some are still going through it now.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about your work and what you've been seeing going on, because it sounds like you know in great detail what that is looking like.
Well, okay, so my work, I started off as a classroom teacher, middle school, high school, community college, teaching teens and tweens and in between and all that. So 30 years of teaching French and Spanish. I worked with families, students, young adults. And in the last 2 years, I branched off and I'm in private practice now, working as an academic life coach, helping students with their executive functioning skills, which for everybody out there who's like, executive functioning, I always hear that, but I don't know what it is. Basically, it's called adulting. We are asking our children to adult a little bit early. And then I also work with, so I'm helping them with those skills, getting organized, time planning, and then also self-advocacy if they don't understand something, to approach their teacher, how to create a system so they have friends, other people in the community to get support for their academic success, but also how to live life a little bit with compassion and inspiration. And then on the other side of that, which isn't too far away, is I'm a parenting coach. And so I help parents see the rock stars that they already are, but help them develop more confidence in the areas they wish they had. So we work together, and I don't necessarily work with the parents and the students at the same time. They're totally separate contracts, but I definitely, it's been amazing watching parents on one side do so much and care so much to redefine their boundaries, to relearn communication, and then to watch the students do the same thing in their own way, and then to hear about them playing together, enjoying each other. And it just gives me goosebumps just to talk about it. I think about this picture. This is years ago, and this is me and my boys. It's a little bit of a glare, but we are having a great time. Yeah. And this is about 2 years after I realized, oh, there are some things that I can change about the way I do things that can bring calm and peace into my family's life. I wasn't a terrible mom before that, but I definitely had areas where I was not confident. Mm-hmm. And so it helped me see, oh, maybe I can help others. Yeah. Because it's challenging. It's really challenging. I tell parents all the time, your kids' tantrums are probably not what you think they are. We tend to take things really personally. Well, you're a mom, we can take things really personally, and we really, we don't have to take things personally.
Yeah.
Kids are going through their stuff. I almost swore. I don't know if people swear on this channel, but anyway.
Yeah, sometimes we do. Sometimes.
All right. Well, everyone's going through their own shit. Okay. It's just like, that's what's happening. And I think what's the old cliche of it takes a village, it does. It takes a community to really get through this and still love each other and show that we love each other. And yeah, I love it. I love my work. I love it. Even though it's hard, it can be hard sometimes because people are scared, they're nervous, they don't want to make mistakes, they don't want to do the wrong thing, or they're stuck in their own ways. So but we talk honestly. There's no elephant too big in the room.
Yeah, that's awesome. So as you've been supporting folks through this past year, like what are some of like the biggest challenges that you're seeing people are still struggling with as we're gonna moving through the end of this crazy time?
Yeah. Well, I will say the biggest thing before the pandemic was their kids on screen time, right? And then you go to a year where it's all on the screen. Oh my God, what are we going to do? And now some schools and some areas are getting off the screen and going back to campus. And we're still, how do we now tell our kids, you've been on the computer for a year, you can't be on the computer now, or you need to reduce it or minimize it. So that's one that's really intense. But the other piece is this, and I think it has a lot to do with screen time, is communication. Assumptions that are being made. There's this assumption that because my kid is in their room on the computer, they don't love me, they don't want to talk to me, they don't want to engage. But you know what? It's what I learned this year, especially, and I actually took a course. I'm not done with it yet, but I'm in the middle of a course about screen addiction. It's not so much about the addiction of being on the screen, but that's where the kids are feeling like leaders. They have gained confidence in whatever game they're playing.
Yeah.
And they don't feel that in other areas.
Yeah.
So it's about shifting the communication to an accusation of addiction. And I'm still working on that with one of my kids, and they're adults now.
Right.
To shifting it to, wow, sounds like you're a great leader in that game. Tell me more.
Yeah.
And finding some means of curiosity.
Yeah.
Because that will break the communication wall.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that you brought that up because so I have a student who lives in my home who's 13 in the pandemic, and he loves to play a baseball video game. And baseball is like his greatest passion in life. And when he wasn't able to play baseball, he was like playing this game like crazy. And that's been part of my approach, has been like, oh, tell me about what's going on in the game and like what's happening with the characters. And he's like, Mom, I did this and I did that, and I got a grand slam with so and so. And it's clear he's not just, he's not just like escaping into some other, like he's learning skills and he's doing things that he's really enjoying, and he's playing with other people and talking to them. And it was such a great way for him to be able to like play and enjoy something during a time when there was nothing enjoyable. But now it's kind of like, how do we shift and reduce that?
Right. Well, and the other thing is too, that kind of game, I don't know if your son has the opportunity to be playing that with other people, but I mean, there are children who are like, my youngest is 21. He's playing with people from all over the world. Yeah. And so it's a social opportunity to get to know people from Canada or other countries where he otherwise wouldn't get to travel to. And so during the pandemic, especially, that social element was really important. Yeah. A lot of people started transferring the language, changing the language. Instead of being social distancing, it was physical distancing. Yeah. Because you don't want to distance these kids from their social opportunities. But I love what you were saying about asking the questions and being curious about your son's game. It's really important. And it's just like anything, a lot of parents feel frustrated, even at the elementary school age. I don't know what to ask my kid. I just say, how was your day? And they say, fine. And then that's the end of that. Yeah. And so it's about learning what kind of questions to ask, where you're not kind of hovering and I want to know every detail because I want to control your life, but I'm really interested, like, what did you read today? Was there something that you read today that you really enjoyed? Or you can go the reverse. Was there something you read today that really sucked? You might get your kid to talk a lot faster. because it's very easy for any of us to talk about what sucks, right?
Right.
But it's about exploring, I'm definitely the person with the cup that's overflowing. I don't see the half cup half empty.
Yeah.
But it works for me when I'm working with my students or my parents to say, usually I start out with what are 3 things that went well this week, and sometimes they can do it and sometimes they don't. I'm like, okay, clearly this is a hard question. How about what sucked this week?
Yeah.
And they go, rah, 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 rah. I get everybody talking, but then we work on it, we mold it, we soften it up, we kind of figure out, so yeah, that sounds like it actually was a good thing. You want to talk about that? Oh yeah, I guess it was good. Cool. And during a year of that we went through, all of us, it can be hard to find good things. There's been a lot of loss. There's been a lot of pain. There's been a lot of frustration. And so it's about a balance, and that's my podcast. I have its coexistence, joy, pain, and truth, right? They all have to exist together. And so that's another thing that I work with my families on is you can really like your parent and you can really hate your parent in the same moment, but it's really more the behaviors, not the parent themselves or not the child themselves.
Yeah.
Right. And developing that understanding of what do I like? What do I hate? What I'm frustrated about?
Yeah. So that you can come up with solutions together, right? Because most of the time, something that you can do something different. Somebody can do something different.
Yeah. Absolutely. You can't keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results.
Right.
Who said that? Einstein? No, I don't know.
I heard it in like addiction, right? Of like, insanity of trying the same thing over and over again, and it's not getting results. Yeah. So screen time, communication, sharing feedback, and learning how to kind of take on. So you talked about like being passionate about no elephant is too big for us to talk about. And how do you approach that with families? Because I feel like that's such a huge issue for all of us in families, right? And it can be so important to be able to just open it all up and have everything open for discussion. How do you navigate that with families and kids?
Well, it takes a little bit of time. I will say I don't do it in the first 2 weeks. People have to feel that trust factor, right? There has to be trust, there has to be confidence, there has to be a willingness to be coachable. But the way we get there is through that. We develop the connection. And then what I might say is, I always ask, if I hear something, is it okay if I stop and ask you about it? And you have the option to say yes or no at that time, but I just want to have permission to interrupt you if I hear something that I think might be poignant for your success with this family or your situation. So that's one thing I do. But when we really get down to it, I'll ask them, what's the worst thing that could happen if you raise this subject? Because the fears are usually larger than the reality, right? They have the acronym FEAR, face everything and run. Face everything and recover, or whatever that is, or you can fear everything and run. And when it comes to a family, it's important to model the facing of it, right? And to really say, I'm willing to talk to you about this, Sam or Joe. Let's say your kid's name is Joe. Joe, I'd really like to talk about this, and I'm feeling some fear myself, and so I don't want to scare you. It's nothing wrong. I'm just noticing that I'm having some feelings, and because I think this is an elephant in the room that we're all avoiding. So I'd like to talk about it. Right now might not be the right time. Can we set up some time together to talk about this elephant? And you may end up giving more information, but I typically ask my parents to wait and to have me coach them through it. But really identifying, if Joe says, hell no, and slams the door, that may be the worst thing that could happen.
Yeah.
Right. And then what might happen after that, if you don't go chasing Joe, is that Joe thinks about it, has some time, comes back out and says, you know what, I'm sorry, that was rude or disrespectful of me. And some parents right now watching are like, yeah, right, my kid will never do that. Then I ask the parent, well, would you ever do that? Would you ever say, I made a mistake, I'm sorry, that was disrespectful of me?
Yeah.
So it's about identifying mutual responsibility and respect, right, in the way we communicate.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that because I feel like that's one of the things. I was a therapist working with teens in a school for youth impacted by homelessness for many, many years. And
Oh,
so I did
yeah.
a lot of work with kids around their relationship with their
Mhm.
parents. And then sometimes it was difficult to work with the parents because their situations were so difficult and just getting them on campus
Mhm.
was a challenge. But that was one of the things that I heard so often from young people is how much they want to be given a choice, and they want to be treated with respect, like, hey, this is something that's out here, like, I want to invite you to address this with me, let me know when that works for you, how can we collaborate together on this thing that's kind of problematic between us, and letting them know my intention is to be close to you and to have a good relationship with you. So how do
Yes.
I'm not here to, like, bust you, but how do I invite you to this conversation so that we can have something we both want? And I know that's something that
Mhm.
happens a lot in my home too with my son, and he
Mhm.
does exactly that sometimes, where he's like, ah, and then he'll come back later and be like, I'm sorry, I was mad because of this and that. But
Mhm.
I do want us to talk about that, or us to figure that out.
Yeah. And so if we address the fears
Yeah,
of what do you think your child's going to do when you bring this up? Oh, this. Okay, put them in order. What are you most afraid of out of those 5 reactions? This one. Okay, so let's talk about if this one happens, how you can not escalate it,
right.
right? How you can either let it be or help de-escalate.
Yeah,
It's critical,
yeah,
but I think if we don't address the fears, then you go in unprepared.
yeah.
I can handle this. I can do this. I can have this conversation. But it takes more than one person to have the conversation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and sometimes too, if you have that anxiety that something's gonna go bad, you
It
also
will.
it will, right? You don't come in with that loving intention. You come in like
Right.
this. We gotta talk about this because and then it's like, well, of course that's how it went down. Whereas, like, if you're like, okay, this is my loving intention with my child. These are things that could be happening. These are things that I can help with, to set this up for success. So I love that you're helping kind of like take the steps. I'm curious if you had an opportunity to watch Gabor Mate's the documentary, The Wisdom of Trauma, that recently came out.
No,
It's so they're
I
gonna do
have not.
another one.
I've been so busy planning this retreat. I haven't hardly read anything. But yes, no, I
Yeah,
haven't. I would like to. That is on a list. Yes.
yeah. Well, they're gonna do another round of screenings, I think, later this summer. But he was talking with an attachment theory specialist, and I can't,
Oh,
Diane Poole Heller, I think her name is. And she was
okay.
talking about one of the most important things that parents can do to have a healthy attachment with their children is to role model that reparation, being that person who
Yes.
says I'm sorry, who role models,
Yes.
hey, I blew it. I wasn't paying attention. I'm sorry. Or I reacted in a strong way and I probably hurt your feelings. I'm sorry. Coming back, and how important it's not about being a perfect parent. It's about identifying when we're not and being responsible and
Mhm.
meeting them in that space.
Yeah. And just because we come back and apologize for something doesn't mean that we were terrible all the way around.
Right.
And I think some people have this notion that if I apologize for this, the child's going to take it all and say, you're all screwed up. But you're giving the model of, I want to take responsibility for what I know I did that was uncomfortable for you.
Yeah.
And it made me uncomfortable too. And I want that to be my opportunity to share with you that I'm sorry. You don't have to say, I remember I had an experience where I was really sorry for yelling. I wasn't sorry for what I said, but I was sorry for yelling. And so I didn't have to say, I shouldn't have said any of that.
Mhm.
What I did have to say was, I'm really sorry I raised my voice to the level that I did. That was very uncomfortable for me. And I imagine it was uncomfortable for you. I'm really sorry. It was never even asked at that point to apologize for what I said,
Right.
because they knew what I said was truth, but the way I said it was not okay.
Right.
Right. So when we do things, it's not that we're having to come back and apologize for everything.
Yeah.
but we can identify things we can repair and can take responsibility for. And then that shows absolutely our children that nothing bad happened when I apologized, and that means they can apologize and they can come back and say, wow, I really am sorry. I lashed out like that, or that I slammed the door, or whatever it was. Yeah. The modeling is really huge. I mean, that's where the most successful teachers are too. If a teacher gives an assignment and they says, okay, I want you to go to page 32 and do this graph, do that, do that. Okay, you guys have 20 minutes, but doesn't say this is what it's going to look like, or let me take you through the first or second exercise. The students can be floundering. I mean, sure, there are some that excel and they don't need the instructions or the modeling, but most people need modeling, So it's the same with parenting.
Yeah, and I love that you made that connection to teaching, because so many of the folks in my audience are educators and many of them are also parents. But I think one of the things that I ask a lot on the show, and I'll probably ask you too, is like, what's something you wish all educators knew? And I did an interview with a teaching artist here in San Diego earlier this year who said that you can make mistakes and you can apologize for your mistakes, and you can let students know when you're off or different things like that. And I feel like that's, you gave an example of like just like modeling things in an assignment, but when we're handling behaviors and difficult situations with discipline with students, this is it's a huge thing, right? And I'm sure as a teacher, you're all about that. When a kid is misbehaving and you crack down on them, or you misunderstand their behavior for disrespect, and maybe they're having a really hard day, or it's all those.
Didn't have breakfast, or their dad went to jail the night before, or whatever it is. Yeah, you just don't know.
Right. And so those skills that you're talking about, of like really breaking it down into steps and identifying, these are my feelings about this situation. How can I set myself up for success? How do I prepare myself for this interaction with my student? It's the same, right?
Yeah. And I guess, am I answering that question? Yeah. I would say if all parents and all teachers could know how to do one thing, it would be to start over, to offer a fresh start, to have trust and hope that whatever you're trying to teach, the student can learn at some point if they're meant to learn it. But that if there's a negative behavior or a disruption, that we walk in the next day with the opportunity to start over. I have so many things actually that I wish parents and teachers knew. One other thing that's really important for me is, and this was a huge pivot in my own teaching career, is if teachers knew that it's okay to go backwards in order to gain full speed ahead. Because sometimes you may have 25 students, or I had 37 students in a classroom, and 22 or 23 of them are stuck. It's okay to take a little bit of time to go backwards to get everybody on the same page, and then you end up flying forward.
Right. Instead of,
and I think there's so much, boom, 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 get it done, get it down. And then those 22 fail, or they fail the next year because they didn't have that foundation. And you give the other 12 or 14 or 15, I'm not a math teacher, 22, 15, 15 jobs or supportive opportunities for them. It's scaffolding perhaps, but it's about saying, you know what, this is to benefit all of us. And there are a lot of people in society who don't agree with that, because what you're doing is you're saying on a social status level, we're giving a little bit more here from our pocket so these people can catch up. Right. And then guess what? We all get to go together. In education, I think it's critical. I think it's absolutely critical. And not every student has the financial ability, equity, access to tutoring, to private, support. And so when we're able to give that opportunity in the public classroom, especially, it's a gift. It really is a gift. And it's a gift to the kids who are ahead, because they can see, oh, that benefits me. You know what? There was something I needed to brush up on, or whatever the case may be. But so that's another piece that was a real pivot in my teaching was I actually took a group 3 weeks back because I was new to the school. And we got through more chapters in that year than most of the other classes who didn't go back.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, well, and you said something earlier about students or, our kids needing an opportunity to feel like a leader, right? And so those kids who are ahead, if we engage them appropriately, that's a really great opportunity for them to feel like a leader, feel like they have something to offer their fellow classmates. And then the learning is happening in multi directions. It's not just from you as a teacher to the students.
Oh, absolutely.
Each other. And then you have this like really lively learning community that everybody's invested in, right?
Yeah, and I'm actually glad you said that because that's what I did. I had students get into groups, and there were strong students and not as strong students in these groups, and they got to select different lessons, and they created the lesson and the activities and the quizzes and presented it to the rest of their class. And so but they couldn't move forward unless everybody in the group agreed and understood what was happening. So it was really cool because they did like learning from their peers. And then that group would get up in front of the classroom and teach the whole class. And I'd sit back going, they are brilliant. They have even more cool activities than I could ever come up with. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. That was very much my approach when I was working with students too. So if we kind of go back to the parents, is there something of this principle that, as we're moving forward into this summer and into this next school year, like how can we support our kids to be the leaders that they can be, that we know they are? Do you have any ideas about that?
Well, I think it's hard to say because every family dynamic is different. We don't know what their social economic status is. We don't know what kind of equity access they have to things. We don't know if they're working full time or if they're on vacation, flourishing, nourished, whatever, nourished. But I would say something that's very central is if there are tasks to do in the home, that they come together as a team and each research how to do things. Like I taught my son how to change the spark plugs in the car just by watching YouTube, and we went out there and did it together. So I think it's about, kind of maybe having a family meeting and saying, what are some things that we could do together this summer that need to be done around the house or apartment or whatever? And what are some things that we would like to do as a family? Maybe, Joe, you can pick out 3 games you might be interested in playing at some point together this summer. Maybe you could also help me, fix the garbage disposal under the sink, whatever it is. But I think it's about having ownership as a family of what needs to happen and what people want to happen, and it not being just one way or the other. The kid is ruling the house or the parents are saying it's all this way or no way or the highway. So that's, I think if I were going to just make one suggestion, it would be that. I know that, with teenagers and preteens, it's a little harder to get the kids involved with reading together. But there are some pretty cool books out there that, families could listen to on audio together, driving places. I would also say that it may be fun to invent something together. Not that it would make millions of dollars, but wonder what we could invent as a family that might be a hot ticket or something. I maybe put more of these ideas in the comments as I think about them, but that was a fun question. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I think to keep the calm in the home, it might be good to set some, what do we want our family to look like this summer?
Yeah.
Create a contract. I have several families that I work with that have created contracts with their children. What do we want our family to look like? The message being, don't cuss in this house. Instead, in this family, we don't cuss when we're angry. In this family, we do this. And as a family, create what feels safe and create an agreement together.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I've found with agreements is when we have agreements of what we do versus what we don't do, or at least a little bit of both.
Yes. So, Absolutely. Absolutely. The positive is really important. In this family, we enjoy eating dinner together twice a week. Yeah.
Like feelings are welcome, but we don't say harmful things. We express ourselves appropriately.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And that's something I did a lot with young people in schools. It's like, what do you want this school to feel like? What do you want the community to
Mhm.
be like, sound like, look like?
Yeah.
So what's all of our part in making that happen, right? Because it's not
Yeah.
family, it's not just mom's job to create the culture. It's everybody contribute.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, even though if mama ain't happy, nobody's happy, but I'm just kidding.
Truth.
No, but it's yeah, no, I think it's really important. And one of the things I do in my confident parenting program is I actually work with families as they come together. So you've got maybe parents of a 14-year-old, parents of a 19-year-old, parents of a 12-year-old, and you're hearing each one talk about what do you want your family to feel like? And another parent's like, oh, me too. Oh, I want that. But you might have to do something different with the 12-year-old in your family than you would with your 19-year-old in your family to get your family to feel like that for you.
Yeah.
Right. But it's so wonderful to have these parents come together and share with each other what they've been doing, what's worked, what hasn't worked, and then hear from another family saying, oh, well, I tried this and I did it with a little twist. Oh, I hadn't thought about that twist. So it's yeah, having that support is really, really wonderful.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about your services and what you have available. I know you've got an exciting event that's coming up that are you looking for people to come and enjoy this? So tell us a little bit about all that.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I will start out by saying I do work with all gender nonconforming students, adults, etc. But this particular retreat on Saturday is a 12-hour full day virtual retreat for moms of preteens and teens. It is for all women also, in the sense that if you have younger children, older children, you're empty nesting, you're a medical professional, whatever it is, or you're parenting yourself, or you're a parent role in the community, but specifically wanting to really celebrate women who have teens and preteens, because this year was really hard. And it's called the International Joy and Resilience Virtual Retreat for Moms of Teens and Preteens. It's $18 and there are 32 fabulous women from all over the world who are presenting workshops. There'll be interactive workshops. There are 4 workshops every hour. I'll be the keynote speaker, and I'm going to be talking about the pains and joys of parenting oneself, parenting our children, and being a parent role model in the community. And then the other thing about this retreat that's super special is that there will be some time at the lunch hour and at the dinner hour for women just to hang out and really connect. And then also every single presenter is offering a free gift. And so when you get the program, we're going to send out the final program Friday and Saturday morning. You not only get to choose what workshops do you want to go to, but every single presenter has a gift that'll like a checklist, a tip sheet, strategies that you can use in your life moving forward. And I've never created something at this scale. And I've had so many interviews in the last few weeks. I'm feeling like a rock star, but at the same time, I'm like, oh, this is me. I did this. So just be really authentic and honest out there and transparent. Say, I'm excited. This was my brainchild over Mother's Day weekend. I was thinking about my mom, who I miss very, very much. This is a picture of my mom and myself when I was a baby.
Oh.
And but she passed away 5.5 years ago, and her birthday is July 12th. And so she would be 82 this summer. And I just loved how special she made everybody feel. And I want women, and especially moms, to come in and to enjoy this day and leave feeling like they were the special one. And I just got goosebumps. So why am I only charging $18? Because in Hebrew, 18 means life. And my mom loved that number. And it's a way for me and other women to not only celebrate my mom's life, even though they didn't know her, but to celebrate their life. And there's a lot of heart in this day coming up. Yeah. And I'm still taking registrations until Friday. So
awesome. So where do they go to sign up for this amazing day with all these wonderful presenters and keynote speaker and free gifts and
opening and closing ceremony related to the elements of the earth so it's tinyurl.com/4xb like boy UK 4BC, B like boy, C like Charles. So I'll say that again, tinyurl.com // which way is it? 4, and then all lowercase letters, X, B as in boy, U as in umbrella, K as in kiss, 4, B as in boy, C as in Charles. And yeah, and you can also on that page, once you register, you'll get the full program. You can you'll get a link to my website where you can watch all the videos of the different presenters introducing themselves. The program is 25 pages long, and so you're going to get to see every single woman's bio and her workshop title and description. I'm just so, yeah, I'm surprised actually that I got this all off. So I've been planning for a long time, and I've gotten a really great response so far. But I am cutting off the registrations on Friday. So
great. And we'll put the link to that registration in the comments of this video. So don't freak out if you didn't capture the code.
yes, I promise I'll put it in there when we're done. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm really excited for you and for your event. And I think I might know some of the ladies that are presenting, and
I bet you do.
And they are all amazing, wonderful, high quality folks that have so much to offer moms at this time. So I wish you all the best with that. And if you're watching and you're a mom, sign up. You will not regret it. These gals know how to do online events. So yeah, go for it. Well, as we're kind of wrapping up our conversation today, you already answered the question that I usually do to wrap up, which is like, what do you wish, all educators knew? But another question that I've asked a lot of folks is like, what is your main go-to for taking good care of yourself? Like, what's the thing that you do, that can maybe spark some inspiration for other moms?
Absolutely. So it's kind of funny. That's a great question, because I have been telling everybody about this retreat. It's like, it's your day off. Take some time for you. Put on your oxygen mask before you put it on anybody else. And so the thing that I do that just completely brings me into calm is I literally either put my hand on my heart or I hug myself and I close my eyes and I breathe. And I breathe in the words, may I feel compassion. May I feel compassion. And then I might say something like, I breathe in love and I breathe out love. And just the combination of breathing and holding myself is parenting myself. And you can do it anywhere. You don't even have to hug yourself. Like, even when I was in the classroom, sometimes there were some days where those students had energy, like Halloween and other days, right? And I would say, take it a moment. If you want to breathe with me, you can, or you can put your heads down, but don't talk. I need this one moment. And I would literally just stand there in front of all my students and I would go, and even just one breath is a gift. One breath. So I just got teary because my mom used to always say, breathe, honey, breathe. I finally got it, Mom, wherever you are. I finally got it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's huge self-care right there. It may feel simple. It may feel small. You know what, folks? It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't. Keep it simple, sister. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And that power of the breath, we've talked about so many times on this show. So I love that you just demonstrated that. It's really beautiful. And my brand in this little show is also a lot about artists. And we didn't talk about this, but I know that you're also a musician. You planned like that whole, event that we did at Women Rocking Business and stuff. And I'm just curious if you, in closing, have anything to say about your creative practice and how that supports you as a mom, an educator, a life coach. Tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So yeah, I'm a singer-songwriter, and in the pandemic, I think I wrote, well, in the last 2 years, I've written over 20 songs, but the one song that has soothed me the most is called Ain't No Bad Day for Me. because you all may not know, but I suffer from chronic pain. I have fibromyalgia. And I found I had to shift my thinking a lot when I was hurting. And so these words came to me, and it has been my mantra. In fact, I'll be singing it at the retreat on Saturday. But it's the idea is that even if there's one thing that I can smile about or I can laugh about, I can't define the day as bad. So I could have a good day with a lot of shitty moments. but if I see a hummingbird come to my window and just stay there for a moment, it's a good day with shitty moments. And I could have, you could turn it around and say, well, I had a shitty day with a couple good moments, but why would you want to do that? Like, let's change the story. Right. And so that's how my music helps me, is I can take all the pain and the feelings and I can put it into lyrics, and I can play the music and I can share it with other people. Just like my coaching practice. I can take my wisdom, my experience, and share it with others. And that feels good to me. And yeah, I kudos out to all the artists out there. I imagine they had a lot of material the last 4 years. But we always have a lot of material, but yeah, keep doing it. That's all I say, is keep doing it. I do have days where I forget to practice or I'm resistant to practice, but there is something about music especially, and I'm not wanting to negate any of the other areas because I'm not strong in those areas. I can talk about my kind of artist. I do believe that is a piece that really soothes our souls. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. And once again, folks, go sign up for the event. If you're a mom, you will not regret. Misha's got a beautiful voice. I've heard her play and sing before, and I'm a huge fan of using the arts to heal ourselves and others too. So, well, is there anything else that you want to remind us of, or anything else you want to say in closing? It's been such a joy having you on today.
No, thank you so much, Rochelle. I think the only thing I would like to say is your presence always makes me feel safe, calm, at peace. And I want to thank you for having me on this. And just wishing for continued joy and growth with your son and love. Thank you so much for being present with me today.
You're so welcome. Thank you, Misha. And for those of you that are watching, if you enjoy these kinds of conversations, you can follow this series on YouTube at Artful Leadership. And I do a lot of this kind of work with educators and really help educational leaders to put their own well-being first so they can lead with a full tank. And so that's why we're talking about all of this today. So we look forward to seeing you on another talk next Tuesday. We'll be back with another awesome artful leader. Thank you so much, Misha, and best of luck with your event.
Thank you. Yay. Appreciate you. Hope to see you all July 10th.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.